What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling on Zoom again, and this time we are here with Rob Dukes of Generation Kill. Thanks for being here today, man, and great for busting out the cigar as well. Is that a Romeo and Juliet, or?
No, this is it's called Trinidad. It's a company out of Nicaragua made by AJ Fernandez. Something I was trying it this morning. I haven't had, I just had coffee, and then I'm sitting at I got an appointment later today, so I was going to come do a bunch of shit early this morning. So I come and met my buddy for a cigar in the morning. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've always said that, every band has been making their own beer lately. Some bands should try making their own cigar brands. I think that might be a good idea.
Actually, I have that idea. I actually have it in the works. I'm going to be selling them at my shows. I'm going to make a special band that has my own little logo on it, and I'm just going to, people buy them or novelty, or actually, it's going to be a decent cigar. It's going to be a nice Maduro, probably a Nicaraguan with like maybe a Mexican filler. So it's going to be nice and a little stronger than a little stronger than Maduro, between Maduro and full. So that's the kind I'm rolling with.
Yeah, well,
so yeah, that is a plan.
You got a buyer right here. But it's so awesome to have you here. We got a lot of exciting things happening for Generation Kill. You just released 3 singles, which is Never Relent, Rat King, and Into the Black. Could these 3 singles maybe serve as a good representation of what the full-length follow-up to We're All Gonna Die is going to sound like? Or
yeah. No, well, yeah, man. So basically, I talked to Zeus recently. Me and Zeus were talking, and he's like, yeah, this record is really heavy compared to whereas We're All Gonna Die was kind of a mixture. He goes, you kind of got to spread your wings a little bit out of the thrash world and kind of do a bunch of other stuff. You got to sing a little bit, and you got to do a little bit of just kind of weird stuff. And so this one, we just decided just to go for it. We were just, fuck, we're just gonna fucking have some fun and play heavy and fast, and not all the songs are that way. A couple are like mid-tempo stuff. We did one mellow one that's kind of mellow that turns heavy, but for the most part the album is like these 3 songs. It's just kind of the that's how the album is gonna roll.
Yeah.
So
are there gonna be any gentle love ballads on it as well?
Nope. No, not at all. There's none of that happening on this one.
Yeah. The only band I know, thrash band I know, that actually put out any love ballad was Municipal Waste, and it was like off a B-side called Boner City. So not even that meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, totally, man. Yeah, I did one on the first record. It was like this. I was really like bummed out, and one night I wrote this song. It ended up on our demo. It was, I even forget the name of it, man. I wrote the guitar riff and I just kind of sang it, and then we just kind of made it a song. I don't remember the name of the song, but it was about being dead in a morgue on the slab, and you're still aware of everything. That was what the song was about. And I don't remember.
Goals.
It was on Red, White, Blood. I actually don't remember the name of it, but it was like a 5-minute thing, and I don't think I've heard it in a decade. So yeah.
Well, that song definitely described my relationship goals, may I just say. But from what you were telling me about those 3 singles, it almost seems like that this new album, it wasn't like you were revolving too much around a preconceived idea, right? It sounded like this was a very organic songwriting process.
Yeah, man. So, we got Max in the band, and then after Max came in, me and Jay Velez had written a couple songs, and then Max joined the fold, and then we wrote some more, and then the other guys kind of joined in, and then, but as we were unfolding songs, they just kind of, we never said, oh, let's write thrash stuff. The only song that we did really concentrate on what style we were going to do was, I wrote a song. I said, hey, man, I'm going to ask John Joseph to sing on this album. So let's write in the vein of like a New York hardcore vein, like that kind of attitude, and that was the only song that we kind of focused our energy on a certain style. We said, let's make it like a New York hardcore song. So that's what we did. And John fucking killed it, man. I sent him the song. He says, fuck yeah, I'll do it. We got him in the studio, and he came in and laid down vocals for it. It's fucking killer. So
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've always saw like a little bit of hardcore influence in the sort of Generation Kill DNA a little bit, even with the last two albums. I feel like I wouldn't call it sick of it all agnostic front hardcore, but I definitely see like some hardcore, like a lot of homage and a lot of hardcore love behind it. It definitely has the "don't fuck with us, you better listen to us" attitude behind it.
well, yeah, I mean that's kind of the metal deal too. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we're unabashedly fucking testosterone filled dudes that are just fucking it's kind of how it goes. And I think growing up the way I did, we're listening to all different kinds of music. I think I'm influenced, and I think my band is too. We're all influenced by so many different styles of music, and we all listen to everything. I mean, nobody is like a pure metalhead or pure punk or pure hardcore. Everyone has like really eclectic music tastes, which is perfect because then we're not pigeonholed into one corner. We can do a bunch of different shit. So
Yeah. Well, isn't that like kind of like going to like the formation of Generation Kill in a way, being that, or even now with the current lineup, being that everybody has either currently or been in other bands previously. Like, was the intention maybe to combine like maybe your efforts from like a band like Exodus, combine what Max does in Undivided, and combine elements of Mutilation all together in one, or like were you all trying to step into uncharted territory that you never done in your previous bands?
we pretty much took it as it came. So it was never really. I don't think it was ever really talked about in like in the frame sentence that you're putting it in. I think we all just kind of like what would happen was they would play a riff and I'd be like, oh, that's cool, let's do that, and then they would do another riff and I'd be like, okay, yeah, put that riff with that riff, and then we would come up with a song, and then it would take a life of its own as we played it. You know what I mean? But it would start out with either I liked something or somebody would be like, dude, check out this riff. And I'd be like, oh, it's fucking killer. Let's use that. You know what I mean? And then it would morph into its own thing organically. There was never like, well, we want to sound like Exodus on this one, or we want to sound like Metallica, or we want to sound like that. Never was part of the plan. It always just ended up that way organically, coming from the worlds we came from,
Yeah. And even still, like with just your voice alone, like I can't even just pigeonhole it with like a sort of thrash voice as well. I definitely see the thrash in it, but like I even see some like Warrell Dane influences in there. I could almost see you. I mean, they're not around anymore. I could almost see you doing a track with like Jeff Loomis and making sort of like a Nevermore sort of sound in a way.
yeah, I can sing. I can actually, pull it off. I did some on like There Is No Hope, and then Prophets of War, and maybe even like Carney on the last record, like, choosing from that. And then, like the end of Into the Black, I kind of did like a multi-layered vocal voice, basically ripping off something Freddie Mercury would do. I remember Freddie would do, one vocal line and then put a vocal line on top of it and then put a third on top of it. I mean, he would actually do 6 to 8, maybe 10 tracks on top of it. But I only have about 3 ranges, so I just kind of went with that. And so I can actually pull that shit off when, even live, I can kind of do it if I had to. But the thrash voice is more natural for me to just scream at the top of my lungs. But when it comes to singing, I can sing too. I've learned how to do it. I wasn't always capable of doing it, but I've learned over the last 10, 15 years to become a better singer. So you know
Hell yeah. And when it comes, it's not even just one thing to be able to sing, and exercise your voice, but it's also, there's lyrics involved as well. Do you sometimes have lyrics written and that can maybe influence the sound of the song itself?
um no, I usually, how it works is we usually write the music first, right? And then I usually do like a la 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 kind of like scat thing on top of it until I come up with a melody. And then when I have a melody, then I fill it in with words. Like, so what I do is I write. So I have like the note memo on my phone. I have an audio recorder on my phone, and if I have an idea, I'll write it down or I'll talk it into my phone, and I'll have that as like a lyric idea for maybe in the future. And then what I'll do is I'll sit down and I'll come up with a melody, and I go, oh, those let me try those words that I wrote like 8 months ago. let me try to fit those in here, and then I'll write the lyrics that way. Or a song like Vegas was basically a short story I wrote. It was a short story about a girl leaving Kansas and headed to LA to become a movie star, and she ends up a fucking meth whore in Vegas, in the desert, and she ends up killing her pimp and burning his body alive. It was like a short story that I turned into a song. I was like, all right, I did the same thing with Carney. It was just an idea that I had that I was like, okay, and I did the same thing with this. When I wrote Rat King, basically we had the song already. I had the melody, and then I watched the documentary Rats by Morgan Spurlock, and I wrote the lyrics, but I didn't write the lyrics about rats just being what they were. I wrote them as they were, like as an entity that was going to take over the world, and I called it Rat King because of that. It was kind of like, oh, so anyway.
Yeah, I love.
That's how it kind of works for us. So yeah,
I love hearing these stories. Like, do these stories like do you almost like have like a usual place you go to cultivate these ideas, or do these ideas sometimes just come out of nowhere? Like, are you looking at other forms of art, like movies or literature, or?
I never plan. It always just comes out. I read a lot of books, dude. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of. Audio. I have Audible, and I listen to a lot of. I read a lot of history. I read a lot of just. I don't read a lot of fiction. Actually, I used to, but I don't anymore. Lately, in the last year, it's been a lot of history rather than fiction stuff. I used to read a lot of the expanded Star Wars universe was real big for me at one point, and then I had this guy Brian Lumley, was like a horror guy that I read a lot of horror novels by him. He wrote this whole series called the Necroscope series, and then I was always reading crime novels and serial killer shit and just a lot of that. But then I kind of started, like a couple of years ago, I started reading a lot of history, and I listen to history podcasts, and I mostly. That's how the MK Ultra thing happened. I read this book, Chaos by Tom O'Neill, and it was about MK Ultra and how they would drug people and try to make a Manchurian Candidate. And I went back, I watched the original Manchurian Candidate with Frank Sinatra, and then I watched the one with Denzel Washington, and then I read the book In Search of a Manchurian Candidate, and then I read Chaos like 3 or 4 times. I've actually spoken to Tom about Chaos. Like, I actually reached out to him. I was so impressed with the book, and I actually reached out to him, and we've actually started a dialogue between the two of us, and I've been asking him questions, and he's given me other material to read, and I've been reading about that. So it's not conspiracy stuff, it's actual like proven shit that's been going on, and it just I'm mesmerized by it. So what happens is when you're reading or you're listening or whatever, I'll sometimes jot something down, and then later I'll research it. So then when I'm sitting down and writing lyrics, some of those things flash back to me, and then I'm able to inject them into the lyrics. And that's just kind of how it works for me. Because one of the things about me is I love lyrics. I've always loved lyrics. Starting when I was a kid, I started with the Doors and Zeppelin. I always loved when they had the lyrics on their album. So if you couldn't understand them, they were there so you could read them. And I know that most people, I think what I've heard was that 10% of the people give a fuck about lyrics, and the 90% just want a melody. They don't give a fuck what the band is saying. And I think that's kind of true. But I'm one of those people that appreciates lyrics. And when I buy an album, I usually listen to the whole album from beginning to end. I like to read the lyrics along with it and get a sense of what they're singing about, especially if the singer isn't clear and I can't understand what he's saying. So that's always been important to me. So when I write lyrics, I consider it a challenge, and I want to do the best job I can to write decent shit.
Yeah. And
And
that's
I could probably write, yeah.
I love history, so it feels so good to be able to like such a fucking history nerd. Like when everybody's like watching Breaking Bad or fucking Walking Dead or Game of Thrones or that bullshit, I'm fucking watching the History Channel like a
Yeah.
fucking nerd. So it feels good to be able to
You
talk with
fucking nerd.
yeah,
Yeah.
and National Geographic, all that stuff. So like
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's just so much. It's like when you look at us as humans, like we're not really that old of a species, and think about how much we went through in such a short period of time, and how much like
Yeah.
it's incredible.
Especially in the last 50 years. In the last 50 years alone, or last 60 years, say, last 60 years alone, the leap that humans have taken. I mean, it's astronomical.
Yeah.
And what's and what's fucked up is, you look at things from 50 years ago, and we were completely wrong about everything. We were wrong about fucking cigarettes and sugar and fucking corn syrup, and we were wrong about catching killer whales and putting them in cages and dolphins and shit. We were wrong about so much. We were wrong about sharks. We were wrong about fucking everything. And it just seems that as time goes on, we're just so stupid. We're just so selfish, and we're just such, humans are a fucking virus with shoes. I mean, that's a Bill Hicks quote. Bill Hicks, a comedian from the 90s and late 80s, but he was right when he said humans are a virus with shoes. It sticks with me because we're like, you remember the speech from the guy in the Matrix when he goes, "We tried to make you happy all the time. You didn't buy it, so we had to inject pain and sorrow. You guys are like a virus." And that speech is so fun. I've always wanted to take that and put it on a record, like just that little speech, but I've never done it yet, but I should, because it was one of those speeches I stood up and I went, "Yeah, I'm down with the robots." You know what I mean? So
that's amazing. That is amazing. And has there ever been a time though where maybe like lyrically your personal life or your personal experiences also go into the lyrics, or do you tend to use Generation Kill as an outlet to explore, your interests through history and philosophy and all that?
I did one on I think Death Comes Calling was about my drinking days. I haven't drank in 29 years. I was a bad drunk. I I drank for 10 years, and I drank heavily, and I wasn't a good human being. I was a bad guy. So I woke up on my 25th birthday, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I didn't like who I'd become, and I wrote lyrics about it. And it was one of those things. I was unsure of what I was going to do, say with it. You know what I mean? But then I just said, fuck it. I mean, you only live once. Fuck it.
Definitely. And the final question I have for you is the most difficult question of the whole interview. Are you ready?
Yeah, of course.
Yep. Good thing you took a drag of that cigar. How do you know when a song is done?
How do you know when a song is done? Well, sometimes you have to give yourself a deadline, because you can always make improvements, and sometimes you can always, I could do that better, or I could do this better, or I think the guitar solo could be better, or whatever. Sometimes you have to just kind of give yourself a deadline and just be done with it. Like, say, okay, I'm done, because I could sit here for months and months and months and keep going over it. I do know that the first thing you think of is probably not always the best. Like, whatever you're doing can be improved. Now, there's a line, and it's probably a very thin line, where it becomes over. You're kind of like you're just beating a dead horse with yourself. And I think never really being happy with anything. I think there are bright moments, and there are moments on a record where you're like, it's not like you're saying, I'm impressed with what we did. I just think that was a good representation of us. You know what I mean? They're like I heard somebody talk about, like, there's these little bubbles in life. Like, you have these little moments, and if you look at them like a little bubble floating out of you, and then you see it and you go, this is one of those moments that feels really good, and then that becomes your bar for things. from then on. Like you're trying to obtain that feeling of accomplishment in yourself and your bandmates, because I do realize that I couldn't do what I do without my guys around me. Like everyone has a role in what we're doing, and everyone is confident, and everyone is happy in the role. There's nobody wanting more from something. There's nobody wishing, oh, I did this, or I wish I could do that. Like there's none of that. There's like, it's all like, okay, we're all happy to be here. We're all happy to be a part of this process, and we all reap the same accolades from that. So when we get to a thing, like, I don't know how you'd have to ask the guitar players how they feel when they're done with something, if they think it's complete and they're done. I don't know. I've never actually talked to them about it, but I know that we have songs that when we're done, we're really happy with. And I know that, so I played like a month ago with the boys. We hadn't played in fucking years. And there were a couple moments, man, where we were fucking, I wasn't really comfortable because I was worried. I kept worrying about the next song. And I was never comfortable in the song I was singing. I was singing the song, and I was thinking about 2 songs ahead. Am I going to remember the lyrics for that? Because that's one of my weak points of being a singer, is I have a tough time remembering lyrics. But so I was never comfortable. There was a few moments where I was just like, oh, this is fun as shit. And I looked over, and the guitar player had a big stupid grin, and the bass Max had a big stupid grin on his face. And I turned around and I laughed at the drummer, and I could see he was in the same space I was. He was just uncomfortable, but he was trying to have fun. And I know that that's that first show in a while thing. And if we had played 10 shows, by the 4th or 5th show, we would all just been having fun the entire time. But what was your question?
No, I'm not even gonna say it. No, that was perfect. Yeah. That was perfect. That was the best that was so climactic. That's how you end the interview. Thank you so much. So,
you're welcome, buddy.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such a great chat. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for Generation Kill with these 3 singles? Like, when could we be expecting a full-length album?
Man, it'd be no, if it was just, it doesn't come out till at the end of January. So we got there's a bunch of advertising to do and all that shit that the label does and all that stuff. So it'd be cool if people could go to YouTube and subscribe, and you go to our Instagram and follow us and do all that shit. So what it does is it allows us to have more street cred to go out so we can go play live. You know what I mean? Without a decent social media following, which we had to basically start over from scratch. But we started over, and we're doing well. So, we signed with a touring agency in Europe. And, so we're ready to go tour Europe. We're trying to get some stuff in the States and just trying to put some shit together, and, go out there and start playing live. That's the goal.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Rob Dukes of Generation Kill. New stuff coming very soon. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.